welcome to Nick Nack's Corner. I'm Nick, this is Jake, wearing our wizarding robe in a corner. So, today we're going to talk to you guys about the best pairings and trios of Middle-earth. To me, my favorite pairing is probably going to be either Merry and Pippin or Gimli and Legolas.
For me, Gimli and Legolas are the clear choice. I think they're the clear choice for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But if we're doing duos and trios,
you gotta have like
Treebeard, Merry, and Pippin, like as a trio, I think I like even more than Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn.
Yeah, they're quite a fun trio because you see Merry and Pippin, and actually Pippin, once again, because our last video we talked about how Pippin saved Middle-earth, but it was because of Pippin that Treebeard headed south towards Isengard, and he brought them down onto Isengard, which, as you know, was a very pivotal moment that took the power away from Saruman. Yeah. And also, just Gimli and Legolas, their relationship from the get-go, as soon as you get to Elrond's council and Gimli and Legolas are there, they're automatically button heads. Because of elf-dwarf relations. Now, here was something I thought about last night when I was thinking about this topic in particular. Didn't the dwarves of Erebor and elves of Mirkwood make up after the Battle of the Five Armies?
I don't think they ever really became enemies, but there was always some saltiness there.
Some animosity. Because I know that Legolas's father
started trading and stuff, but there was always a little bit of saltiness there.
But I know like Legolas's father attended Thorn's funeral. And he was paid his dues for the war by Bard and by was it Dane who took over Erebor after Thorn?
I do believe it was Dane.
Yeah, so Dane. They all seemed to get along at the end of the Five Armies, the end of The Hobbit, which, you know, to me, that was like, okay, so maybe the dwarves and the elves are going to start to get together. But Tolkien wanted to explore more of why the dwarves and elves don't get along, I think, when he did Gimli and Legolas together. I think he saw that as an unnatural pairing that would have been funny. And it paid off big time. Because you get everything from their competition with each other throughout the entire story. They don't really stop having the competition. You get...
I'll let no pointier outscoring me! I love it.
And there's also the fact that Legolas is so quick to defend Gimli in front of the Rohirrimans and anyone who stands in his way. Afterwards, Gimli is the only dwarf to ever go to the Undying Lands. He is known as Elfriend, and he fell in love with Galadriel, which he didn't think he would do. Which I think was something that cemented Legolas and Gimli's friendship a little bit more. Was actually that point in time when they were in Lorien. I think when Gimli found that Galadriel was pretty, like, very fair and very beautiful, that he kind of turned his opinion around just like that. And also when he's given Galadriel's hairs, like, that's a very important, integral part to Middle-earth's history, because who was it who was going for the Silmarils? And he needed the 3 strands of hair from Galadriel, and she turned him down, and he was like one of the highest elves.
I don't recall who that was.
You just give me 1 second. Fëanor is the name of the guy who wanted to collect the Silmarils and get the hairs from Galadriel, because her hair is magical. It's not Maybelline. You're worth it. But that cemented their friendship quite a bit. And as you see, when we go into Helm's Deep, they have the competition of what they're going to do. Pelennor Fields, they have the competition. They follow Aragorn everywhere he goes because Aragorn is the king of the free peoples. And he truly is, like, one of the best. And the trio of them together is fantastic, too, in many ways. Like, you see them going along, they get to Fangorn Forest, you see the little interlude there where, like, Gimli is a little off-put in a elvish sort of realm, And then when they go into the mountains to find the dead people, Gimli's off-put when he's going into more of a dwarvish realm, but it's really human realm, I guess. It's the realm of the dead.
It's underground, but like sketchy necromancy sort of stuff going on.
Yeah. I just love the way the two of them play off each other throughout the books. And they really are quite characters. Like, I believe Gimli sets up a colony of dwarves in the Glittering Caves.
He does.
And Legolas sets up a colony of elves near Fangorn, isn't it?
In Fangorn.
In Fangorn. There you go. So they're very close together. Because I think Fangorn's only like a few days' ride from Helm's Deep or something like that. Not too far. So, you know, they stay very close to each other after the end of the Fellowship.
And eventually build a boat and sail to the Young Dying Lands together.
Yeah. And Gimli's like 700 years old or something like that when he sails across the seas, isn't he?
I don't know how old he is, but dwarves can get pretty old.
Yeah, he's pretty old when he sails across. And I found Gimli to just be a fantastic character overall. Like, we saw the dwarves in The Hobbit, but the dwarves in The Hobbit were a little bit different than the dwarves in Lord of the Rings. Did you find, like... But it was the difference between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Because this one was directed towards kids when it was brought out. And this one was directed towards adults. So in here we got a talking dragon. And over here, if we had dragons, they would not talk. That's the way it would go. Unless if in Tolkien's world, dragons could talk because they're intelligent. That's highly possible.
Well, they are intelligent, but I think if they were in the Lord of the Rings, the role that they would play
would be a non-talking role.
You wouldn't have them talking. You would have them breathing fire. And oh no.
Actually, we'll probably see some of that in the Second Age when Amazon makes their show. It's going to be very interesting. We ran through the history of that last night to see what interesting things happened. There's a lot. We'll go over that in another video. But back on topic. Pairings and trios. Who else is your favorite trio? Or pairing?
I rather like Frodo and Sam.
Yes. Frodo and Sam. Go ahead about Dumbledore.
So, Frodo and Sam. In the movies, in Shelob's Lair, when Frodo sends him away, and Sam climbs back down the stairs, finds the Lembas crumbs, and then climbs back up.
Never happens.
Sam never leaves his side. Which...
Sam would not leave his side.
I get it that they did it for dramatic effect in the movie, but I think it directly contradicts Sam's character. He's like the best of pals, and he was like steadfast friend to Frodo the entire time, and never would have left him.
Nope.
And I think to do that just for dramatic effect really like contradicts his character and who he is.
Wasn't it Sam who fought Gollum?
Oh yeah.
There instead of Frodo? Like in the movie they had Frodo fighting Gollum. But it was Sam in the books who was fighting Gollum.
I think they both fight him at various points, but up until they're actually in Mount Doom, it was mostly Sam.
Okay, yeah. And, like, without Sam, Frodo would have never made it very far. Samwise the Brave.
Absolutely.
He is wholeheartedly and fully Samwise the Brave. One of the most fantastic characters in the entire story, and probably even the hero of the whole story. If you had to pick one character of the whole story to be a hero, I would go with Sam.
He's definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah.
With what he did, he's definitely one of the most important characters. When Gandalf finds out that Frodo had gone off on his own, and he was worried, and then he found out Sam went with him.
He was fine.
He had that reassuring feeling of, like, there's almost a Wheel of Time sort of fate to things.
Yes, where...
But it's very subtle, and Gandalf kind of hints to it sometimes.
So in the Wheel of Time, they say the wheel weaves as the wheel wills, which means everything's already written in stone, essentially. So what's going to happen is going to happen. It doesn't matter what you do, it's gonna bring you back around to where you go. And Gandalf did have that sort of carefree... not carefree. He had that sort of mentality about him where he wasn't carefree about it because he was worried at times. And but he was easily persuaded by hope. And hope is the true theme of the entire story of Lord of the Rings. In fact, King Hope, Lesser is hope in Elvish.
Indeed.
And as Aragorn says, I give all my hope to men and keep none for myself. I would have to say another one of my favorite pairings is Pippin and Gandalf. It's so funny, because you get the wisest man in all of Middle-earth. Yeah, Phil. Get the wisest man in all of Middle-earth and probably the most foolish man in all of Middle-earth together, and you send them on a journey. And then they end up with the most meanest of rulers that you could come across, aside from Sauron and Middle-earth. Denethor.
I don't think Denethor was mean, but he was definitely corrupted.
He did not like his own son. I don't like him. I was happy when he jumped off the cliff, burning on fire.
I think before he was corrupted by Sauron through using the Palantir.
Yeah.
Before that, I think he was probably a decent ruler.
Yeah, I think when he started he was good, but I think because he was a steward for a long time. Like, he's seen the darkest ages of men in Gondor. Because constantly his city was under attack by Mordor, non-stop. Osgiliath was constantly retaken back and forth all the time throughout his rule. They also didn't have much hope for having a king return because one hadn't returned in thousands of years. And so they just kind of felt like nothing was going their way, and that's why he didn't prepare for battle, because he just knew it was not worth the time and energy.
Sauron got into his mind and fed him full of despair and depression, and especially after Boromir's death.
Yeah.
Sauron had an iron grip on him after that.
Yeah, I would agree. So we talk about pairings and trios. What about Smeagol, Frodo, and Sam? Not Gollum, Smeagol. During the Two Towers. When Gollum has a little change of heart for a short little time.
I actually really enjoyed that, and I liked what Frodo was trying to do to bring Gollum back.
Yeah.
And I think he almost had him. Like, it would have gone a lot better if
Sam
the
was
Forbidden
a little bit
Pool
nicer.
didn't happen. Not even Sam.
No?
If the Forbidden Pool didn't happen,
yes,
and Gollum didn't think that Frodo betrayed him, I don't think he would have entirely saved Smeagol, but I think it
would have been better.
Would have had a way better chance.
Yeah. I love Smeagol. He's always trying to impress. He's a tryhard, and I love him for it. And like, Smeagol just has one of those places in my heart because he is neither good nor bad. He is corrupted by the ring, and that's none of his fault.
He was a bit of a weasel even before he got the ring, but then getting the ring and realizing that he could turn invisible, he was like, yeah, I can get away with this sneaky stuff.
Yeah, he did do that quite a bit. That's what kind of got him driven to the mountains.
Doesn't mean he's like terrible, but
no.
It got him kicked out of his community and driven into the mountains.
Which was the river folk, by the way. He is a hobbit.
Or at least very similar.
Nope, the river folks are hobbits.
I think they were old enough that they're kind of what hobbits descend from.
Nope, there's 3 types of hobbits, and they're one of the 3.
The hobbits to settle the Shire, so there's the Tooks.
Yep.
Which are more adventurous. There's the ones around Bag End.
Yeah.
In the Shire that are.
But we're talking about out by Buckland Forest.
And then there's the ones by Buckland.
And those are the ones that Smeagol comes from.
Which, the ones by Buckland, they're a little more prone to boating and fishing.
Yep.
But the river folk that Gollum comes from, I think were even more inclined to boating and fishing.
Yes,
but
because
very similar.
They did some swimming and stuff like that. Yeah. And I also really enjoyed seeing Faramir and Éowyn in their relationship. Because you don't see many women in Tolkien's work. Mm-hmm. And through Merry, when they're in the House of the Healing, we get to see Faramir and Éowyn, and you get to see a picture of them in the movie where they bow together, and that's all that happens between them in the movies. But in the books, there's like 4 or 5 chapters, something like that delves into their relationship and stuff. And Faramir, you get to delve into his daddy issues a bit, and Éowyn gets to delve into the conversation about how she's not weak and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And both have very fair points, and they fall in love with each other, which is fantastic, because Éowyn's been pining after Aragorn since she met him.
Barking up the wrong tree there.
And he's still in love with Arwen, so that's not happening. But it was a fantastic thing to see the two of them get together and get to flesh out the female side of things a little bit more. Because there isn't really any of that in the story. You don't get a whole lot of it. But that's not to say that it's a sign of the times of when Tolkien wrote the book. In the 1940s or 30s? 40s. 44.
40s, I think?
44 or 45, something like that. So that was at a time when a lot of women were stay-at-home moms, stuff like that. The men went out and worked, or there was war on, stuff like that. So at the time, women weren't treated as equally, and it shows in a lot of literature of the time. Mm-hmm. Because it's not added in there a whole lot. And also, I think a lot of authors used to think that in order to write a female, you have to be female, and in order to write males, you have to be males. And the truth is, women are just people too.
Surprise, surprise.
So anyone can write them, but I think that was kind of what held J.R. Tolkien back, maybe, is that he was more so used to the times when he wrote. Because I mean, we get little bits of like Goldberry and Tom Bombadil, another awesome pairing in Middle Earth. They've been around forever. Is Goldberry an elf?
I don't think she is. She's kind of a mystery.
Because she's immortal.
Mm-hmm.
I've also heard that she might even be like the goddess of like the woods. Mm-hmm. In like a form. I almost
get like a fairy vibe from her.
Yep.
She's
ancient.
Very apt towards like water.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. But like obviously she's not a fairy, but I kind of got a little bit of that vibe.
I totally
from
agree.
her.
Yeah. And another awesome pairing, Bilbo and Gandalf. How can you not have them as a pairing? They're fantastic. They sit down and they smoke ships together.
Another one of my favorite pairings, the bad guys, Sauron and Saruman.
Yeah, that's a great pairing.
Tactically,
that's a great idea.
Making Gondor fight on 2 fronts, keeping their allies busy, they played their cards well. They just didn't win.
If Saruman had put his armies to Helm's Deep at the same time Sauron put his efforts to Pelennor Field, mm-hmm. they would have won. Mm-hmm. That would have been it. That one little change could have just the whole thing. But actually, I think they were holding off a Skilith at the time, weren't they?
Yes.
So
Sauron had to go through Osgiliath before he got to Minas Tirith.
Right, because that's kind of the hub that goes through there.
Far closer to Helm's Deep.
Yeah. So, I guess... And Saruman wasn't really wanting to work with Sauron, to be honest. Saruman wanted the ring himself.
Oh, yeah. He was definitely plotting to get the ring for himself.
Yes. I think that'll be all for pairings and trios of Middle-earth. Join us next time for another Tolkien Talk. I'll put all my social medias down below. Please give us a like and subscribe and all that sort of great stuff. And we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.